What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. I apologize, guys. My YouTube posting, as I talked about in my last few videos, has been off. Something with my Android, with the YouTube app, has not been working. I did a hard reboot. I think I finally fixed the problem after much soul searching, so I apologize for the long break, but I will be bringing you guys more horror reviews, more book reviews, more short films of mine, more football stuff, more poetry, more everything coming to you guys very, very soon. If you have any ideas for content or things you want me to get back to, or avenues or segments on this channel that you prefer, please let me know in the comments below what you guys want to see from your boy, Jason Burke. I'm finally back. But today I wanted to do a very quick, not very in-depth, but just sort of a surface level review of Football Focus today of the Pittsburgh Steelers in free agency 2019. The first wave, the big wave of free agency has kind of died down now. We finally got past the initial couple of weeks of free agent frenzy signings in the NFL, and Pittsburgh has lost several guys and gained several guys over the past couple of weeks. They've been more active in free agency than I think they've been in the last maybe ever. Like, my entire fantasy career, Pittsburgh is known for being the number one, if not one of the top teams, that does not sign free agents. They like to build through the draft and bring in their own guys and draft their own people through Kevin Colbert. They do not like to bring in big-name free agents, and they did not really get any top-tier A-plus kind of free agents. They don't spend that kind of money. They don't chase names like that. They like to go for kind of the A-minus, B-plus, B-minus level talent. This year is no exception. It's just the amount of talent they're going after and the amount of holes they're trying to fill in drafting the right people this year, which has come to a big surprise for me as a fan. I guess you cannot say this has been an A-plus kind of free agency because we've lost two of the best offensive players in franchise history. Le'Veon Bell, perhaps the greatest running back in the entire NFL, is now gone. He is now joined the Jets for less total money, less guaranteed money, and less period of time over his contract than it was being offered here. So I think he made a mistake there. But we also lost the potentially greatest wide receiver in the NFL in a trade to the Oakland Raiders. So first of all, thank you, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, for all the things you did here on the field for us. Thank you for your contributions. But I think we're going to be a little better off without the headaches. I know that it's never easy losing the best running back and best wide receiver in the same offseason for any team, but I don't think it's a rebuilding period for the Steelers just yet. I think we have a good draft plan in place, and I think we filled a lot of holes in free agency here. But again, you really have to look at, wow, Pittsburgh did lose a lot of talent in spite of the headaches this offseason. In addition to losing Bell and Brown, we lost another kind of swing starter. Jesse James is now a Detroit Lion. I think he's going to hurt even more so than kind of Bell and Brown in some ways. I know that he wasn't really a full-time starter with Vance McDonald being on the team the last couple of years, but it's just, number one, Jesse is a hometown Pittsburgh guy. So he has that heart and soul kind of thing going. People like to cheer for hometown guys on their teams. And losing a guy like that who you like, who is a hospital contingent, he's someone who does a lot of charity work for the city. He's a backbone of the city. So even though he was not a full-time starter and was never really a game changer on the field, he has a good hometown presence and it does a lot of positive things for the city. So you hate to lose a guy like that. He was a reliable, nice backup to Vance, and Vance gets hurt a lot, so Jesse filled in as a starter a lot for us as well. So we're losing kind of a part-time starter, part-time backup, who was never really, a 7, 8, 900-yard receiver at tight end, but did some positive, solid things for us, including catching the game-winning touchdown against the Patriots that was overturned 2 years ago. I'm not bitter, I promise. But Jesse's gone as well, and that one's going to hurt us a little bit because now the depth at tight end is kind of a little fragile for us. We have Vance McDonald, who is the proven starter and a good broken tackle guy, but he gets hurt a lot. He's been hurt for somewhat of the last his entire run here in Pittsburgh. And Xavier Grimble, who finally had an opportunity to play last year and fumbled the ball at the 1-yard line out of bounds against, I think, Kansas City. So he's not really a proven backup either, so now we have a spot to fill. We also lost a fourth player as well, LJ Fort, the backup linebacker, he's a perennial backup for us. Did play well in spots last year, probably had his best season for us last year. But he's been here for 6 or 7 years and has not done much. Last year was his best year in spots, but he hasn't really improved with the growth you'd like to see. He was a good backup, a good depth guy, but I don't think he was worth keeping around for the money he got elsewhere. I think he was a good expenditure. I think we have other guys we could bring up. I think Keon Adams. I think Oladeni, I think, is a guy we can look at as being a future guy. Matthew Thomas. I think we have younger talent who can grow at a more rapid rate to fill LJ Fort's losses. So I think that one is a good loss for us, if there's a such thing as a good loss. So, minus Bell, Brown, Jesse, and LJ Fort, let's get to the positives real quick. I'm not going to dive into career, retrospectives, and stats here. I just want to look at positioning and how we filled some things. First of all, we needed a number 2 corner big time, and we got one in Steven Nelson. He was a proven starter in Kansas City. Now, Kansas City did give up the most passing yards of any team last year, so I know that is a big gap, but Steven Nelson, a solid cover corner, not big stat-wise, doesn't show up on the stat sheet that well, but is a hard-nosed, tough corner. He can do some bump and run stuff. He's a proven number 2 starter, and that makes our entire lineup bolstered big time, because now you've got Joe Hayden, who's a proven number 1 for us. He's been our best corner since he's been here. Steven Nelson now is a proven number 2 starter on that other side, which has been our biggest problem for the last several years. Mike Hilton now can stay at the number 3. I think he's one of the best and most underrated slot corners at the number 3 in the nickel in the entire NFL, if he's over there. And now you can have guys who started last year, like Cody Sensabaugh, Cam Sutton, bump over to number 4 now. They're much better at number 4 than they are at number 2. So now, with Nelson and Hayden starting, Hilton focusing on the 3rd spot, and then you can have Sensabaugh and Sutton play for that dime spot, and you can also draft a corner as well for depth. Now you've suddenly got probably 4 solid guys, and a guy who was starting for us last year now playing the 4 or 5 spot. So I think that's a big, big plus for us. Hopefully now we can get rid of Artie Burns. He just didn't pan out for us. He was a loss. But I think adding Nelson at depth as a starter takes more pressure off Sensabaugh and Sutton to keep evolving, and we can bring in a rookie now who can learn behind our starters and come in a little later instead of being thrust right in the way that Sean Davis and Artie Burns were in the last couple of years. So that's a big help for us. Also a big help for us, Dante Moncrief. We signed Dante Moncrief, a wide receiver. I know he's not going to jump off the page at you, but he's played pretty consistently for some pretty bad quarterbacks. I don't know if he really got Andrew Luck at all. I think he might have played 1 year for Andrew Luck. But he's put up solid numbers. He has pretty good hands, and he's a good downfield option. He played for Jacoby Brissett for a while. Last year in Jacksonville, he played for them for 1 year as a starter. He was a number 2 for them for a lot of the year. Eventually, I think, went down to 3 and 4 with other young guys emerging. But played with Bortles and who's the other backup over there? Cody Kessler over there? I forget who the other backup was. Played with those 2 guys in Jacksonville and got about 700 yards last year. So I think Moncrief is a solid veteran presence. I think he has, like I said, good hands. He can do the over-the-shoulder stuff well. He's a good downfield threat. He can break some plays and open some things up, which, again, is another guy that gives us depth and makes us feel a little better and more at ease at wide receiver. We still need to probably draft somebody or bring another veteran in, but Juju at the number 1 now. You can start Moncrief at the number 2 while you figure out what's going on with James Washington, who hopefully will come on this year and kind of do what Juju and, who was the other guy who's in Oakland now, Martavis Bryant, did for us in the last couple of years in their first and second seasons. So now you've got Juju as the new Antonio at number 1. You've got Moncrief starting as a veteran number 2 who could do some downfield stuff. You've got Eli Rogers, who we re-signed, as the number 3 if he can stay healthy. And if not, we have Switzer in the swing. And then you have James Washington kind of playing that 3rd, 4th spot, playing in the slot as a downfield guy until he can learn routes. Now we've got James for a full season. Hopefully he can eventually become the number 2 starter. But I think with a returning Eli Rogers, with Juju, and then Moncrief, and then you can have James kind of learn as the number 4, and you can draft somebody as well. So now there's another veteran presence in there at receiver helping for depth while James and while whoever the rookie we draft comes in. to do some positive things. So I think you have three solid options there with Juju, Eli Rogers, and Moncrief while James progresses, and we have Ryan Switzer as well. So I think we're not as bad at wide receiver as people expected us to be, and I don't think we're done either. I think we're going to draft somebody as well who can be an impact player in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And then finally, another big signing for us, Mark Barron from the St. Louis Rams. I know that he was cut by the Rams, but I think he's another solid veteran presence at the inside linebacker spot. He gives us a lot of depth. He's a much more renowned, helpful guy than someone like a Fort or a Chicolo would be. He's a veteran guy that guys, like I said, like Oladeni and Matthew Thomas and Keon Adams can learn from. He's been on winning teams before. His 2 biggest strengths are run stoppage, tackling in the running game, and he's a converted safety, so he also covers slot guys at wide receiver, which are 2 of our biggest weaknesses, tackling the running backs and getting our short tackling, and covering the tight end and slot receivers. Those are 2 of our biggest weaknesses we always have trouble with, and those are the 2 strengths that Mark Barron brings to the table. He's very good at coming up in the run game, and having a big background at safety means he can cover and match up with guys like Gronk. Maybe not cover someone as good as Gronk, but I mean the top tight ends out there that play in the receiver slot position. We did a lot of covering for some reason with our inside linebackers last year. There were several times that not only slot guys, but guys like the Chargers' Keenan Allen and the Colts' T.Y. Hilton were being matched up against Bostic and Vince Williams. I have no idea why the Steelers were covering those number 1 receivers with linebackers. When you have a Joe Hayden and you have a Mike Hilton who's a good slot corner, they were matching up with linebackers somehow, and they were destroying us over and over again. Keenan Allen had like 13 catches in the slot against our linebackers last year. John Bostic, I think, was a decent signing last year, but he was a good tackler, but did not. He's a bad cover guy, really bad cover guy. So to have a better tackler in Barron and a much, much better cover guy than any of our inside linebackers covers 2 big holes for us that we had on defense last year. Also, we let go of Morgan Burnett. He didn't pan out. He only played 1 year. Was injured for half the season. When he came back in, could not take Terrell Edmonds' spot at safety. So Barron, I think if you need to put him at safety at times, he can play that as well. I don't know about his speed anymore with his older age, but I think he shores up some big weaknesses in both coverage and tackling for us. Also, I'm not sure if Bostic is going to stay now because Vince Williams, I think, is definitely going to keep his spot. Now you have to wonder, does Barron start next year or do we keep Bostic and he starts? Either way, it's much added depth for us. There were 2 other guys we looked at that we did not get to sign. James O'Shaughnessy, the backup tight end, was one. We have to still fill that role. He was kind of a really small, ineffective guy anyway. He's back in Jacksonville. Justin Houston, the outside linebacker for Kansas City, who's a sack machine, would have been really nice. I was really pushing for him to sign as well. I think adding Barron and Justin Houston for the outside would have given us a double threat with Watt and Barron. Watt and Houston would have been nasty, but he went to the Colts. So anyway, we did lose several important guys, including 2 future Hall of Famers, but in providing depth with a veteran in Moncrief who can make plays, Steven Nelson, who's our number 2 corner, who shores up our cornerbacks now and fills a big need, and Mark Barron, who's a very solid depth inside linebacker veteran. I think those filled 3 huge needs for us. I think we still need to draft another corner to come along at some point later in the season or in year 2 or 3. We need to draft another wide receiver to come along in year 2 or 3, just in case James Washington does not come along. And we have to draft a safety, which I think has become our biggest need now, is safety, just to see what we're going to do at that position. And then, of course, another outside linebacker, because we're not sure if Bud Dupree is going to be the guy or not. I'm not entirely certain about that. So, but the needs we have now are much more for depth than they are for before. We needed starters. We needed a starting cornerback right away. We needed a starting receiver right away. We needed another linebacker inside and outside right away. Now we have 3 guys providing depth who are trusted starters elsewhere, who can now bring along our younger players and rookies. So I like what we've done overall. I'm going to give us right now a B to a B minus grade in free agency. What do you think of our losses? Who do you think we should have re-signed that we didn't? Who do you think are our solid re-signings? And who do you like in this crop of new guys we have? And who do you think we need to draft now in the draft? What do you think our biggest needs are? I'm saying safety first, and then probably outside linebacker, and then wide receiver, and then maybe a corner. Those are our top 4 for me. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments below. Do you want to see more Steelers free agency and draft coverage? This has been Football Focus, guys. I will see you soon. Thank you.